All right. Testing. Okay, we're running. Part 1122, board initiated investigations. 1122.1, definition. 1122.2, scope of the applicability of this part. 1122.3, with the preliminary fact finding. 1122.4, board initiated investigation. 1122, procedural rule. 5, procedural rules. 1122.6, confidentiality. 1122.7, request for the confidential treatment. 1122.8, limitation participation. 1122.9, power of persons conducting board initiated investigations. 1122.10, transcripts. 1122.11, the rights of witnesses. 1122.12, certification of false statements. 1122.13, rights to submit statements. 1122.1, definition. The board initiated investigation mean with the investigation instituted by the board pursuant to the order of the investigation conducted in accordance with the Section 12 of the Surface Transportation Board Reauthorization Act of 2015, now incorporated and codified in Title 49 U.S. Standard Code 1171. Formal board proceeding meaning of the public received the instituted by the board pursuant to the order to show that the cause of the board initiated investment has been conducted, and investigating officer remaining with the individual designated by the board in order to investigate the conduct of the board initiated investigation. Preliminary fact finding means aim with the informal fact gathering and inquiring with the conduct of the board staff prior to the opening of the board initiated investigation. 1122.2, scope of the applicability of this part. The part applies only with the matter subject to the Section 12 of the Surface Transportation Board Reauthorization Act of 2015, Title 49 U.S. Standard Code 1171. 1122.3, with the preliminary fact finding with the board staff may be the discretionary conduct of the non-public preliminary fact finding subject to the provision 1122.6 with the determination of the manner of the presentation alleged violation shall conduct with the national regional significance of the subject of the board jurisdiction in Title 49 U.S. Standard Code subpart Title 4 Part A. And warrant board initiated investigation board shall inform with the subject of the preliminary fact finding with the preliminary fact finding have the commence wherever they appear with the preliminary fact finding that the board initiated investigation with a warranted staff shall be recommended with the board with appear with the preliminary fact finding with the board of initiated investigation not warranted. Staff shall conclude with the preliminary fact finding notifying any of the parties involved with the proceeding has been terminated. 1122.4, with the board initiated investigation board may in discretion commence with the non-public board initiated investigation aimed with the matter with the national and the regional significance of the subject of the jurisdiction of the board under Title 49 U.S. Standard Code subtitle 4 Part A, the subject with the provision 1122.6 by issuing the order of investigation shall state with the basis of the board initiated investigation identify all of the board staff that they authorize to conduct the investigation officer of the board may have to remove the investigation officer during the course of the board initiated investigation. To the extent practicable, the investigation officer shall not be to participate in the decision making of the further function of the formal board of proceedings open as a result of the board initiated investigations that he or she is conducted. 1122.5 of the procedural rules. After notifying the party subject to the preliminary fact finding with the preliminary fact finding with the commencement of the board shall staff with the reasonably with the period of the time either by concluding preliminary fact finding with the notify with any of the parts involved with the process of the terminated or recommended that the board initiated investigation warranted no later than 30 days of the commencement of the board initiated investigation. The investigator officer shall provide with the parties for the under investigation copy of the order of investigation if the board adds or removes investigation. Investigating officer during the course of the board-initiated investigation, it shall provide with a written notification to the party of the owner of the investigation no later than 275 days after the issuance of the order of investigation. The investigating officer shall submit with the board of the parties for the owner of the investigation any recommendations made with the result of the board-initiated investigation, a summary of the findings of the support of no such recommendations, indeed no later than 90 days after the receiving the recommendation, summary of the findings of the board shall decide whether to dismiss the board-initiated investigation and no further action and warrant of the initiated the formal board proceeding to determine whether any other provision Title 49 U.S. Standard Code, Subtitle 4, Part A, that has been violated in accordance with Section 12 of the Surface Transportation Board Reauthorization Act of 2015. The board shall dismiss the board-initiated investigation that does not conclude with administrative finality within 1 year after the date of which has commenced. A formal board proceeding of the commencing of the issuance of the public board shall cause the order shall state with the basis of the issuance issued the conservative during the formal board proceeding set forth in the procedural schedule. 1122.6, confidential. All information for the documents obtained 1122.3 and 1122.4 or 1122.4, whether or not obtained with the pursuant of the board with the request of subpoena of all the activities conducted with the board under the part prior to the opening of the formal board proceedings shall be treated as non-public by the board and staff except to the extent that the board, in accordance with Title 49 CFR 1001, 4, C, D, and E, directs the authority of the public disclosure activity to conduct under this public part under this part prior to the opening of the formal board proceedings. If any of the activities of the public disclosure that implicate the records claim of the confidential commercial information, the board shall notify the submitter prior to disclosure in accordance with Title 49 CFR 1001, 4B, and provide an opportunity to for the disclosure in accordance with the Title 49 Code Federal Regulation 1001-4D, and the information of the documents of the manner of the public record during the course of the administrative proceeding, the disclosure required by the Freedom of the Information Act, Title 5 U.S. Standard Code 552, or other relevant provisions of law. Procedures which of the person submitted the information of the board pursuant to the part of the Title 49, Chapter 10, and Subchapter B of the Code Federal Regulations, specifically seek confidential treatment of the information for the purpose of the Freedom of Information Act, disclosure set forth in 1122.7. Request of the confidential treatment of the purpose of the Freedom of Information Act, disclosure shall not, however, prevent the disclosure for the law enforcement purposes of the disclosure otherwise found appropriate in the public interest of the permitted by law. All right, 1122.7, the request for the confidential treatment and for the preservation of the document of the board pursuant to 1122.3 and 4 or 4 may claim that the sum of all of the information contained with the particular document, the documents with except for the mandatory public disclosure requirements of the Freedom of Information Act of Title 5 U.S. Standard Code 552 is information referred to in Title 18 U.S. Standard Code 1905 or otherwise except for the law of the public disclosure. In such case, the person making such for the claim shall have the time of the person produce the documentation of the board that indicate that the document of the request of the confidential treatment is being made for the purpose of all information of the document. In such case, the person making the such for the claim also shall file with a brief of the statement specifying the specific statutory justification non-disclosure information of the document with the confidential treatment if it's claimed if the person stated that the information comes in an exemption with the Title 552b4 with the trade secrets with the commercial with the financial information with the information of the response of the subsequent with the Freedom of Information Act request of the board of Title 49 CFR 1001-4 shall apply. 1122.8, limitation on participation. No party who shall not, who is not subject with the board initiated investigation may intervene with the participate with the matter of the right with the board initiated the investigation over this part. 1122.9, part of the person conducting the board initiated investigation. Investigation offered with the connection with the board initiated the investigation may interview with the disposal of the witness, inspect with the property of the facility with the request of the production of the information documentation book of the paper, the corresponding memoranda, agreement to any other records, any of the form of the media that are likely directly relevant to the issue with the board-initiated investigation officer with the connection with the board-initiated investigation also may issue subpoenas in accordance with the Title 49 U.S. Standard Code 1321 to compel with the attendance of the witness for the production any of the record of the other documentary evidence listed above in excess of the property facilities. 1122.10, transcript. The transcript of the investigative testimony should record solely with the official report of the other person with the meaning of the author of the board or investigation offer the witness who has given the testimony pursuant to the part of the shall be entitled upon written record of the procedure procure with a transcript of the other written own testimony or upon the property identification shall have the right to inspect official transcript of the other written on its own testimony. Article 1122.11, the rights of witnesses. Any further witness compelled with the request of the furnished documentary evidence for the testimony of the board initiated investigation shall include, upon request of the be shown with the order of investigation, copies of the order of investigation shall be not furnished with the retention to such a person request the same with exempt with the express approval of the chairman. Any person compelled with the peer with the peers and then person of the board initiated investigation may, by request of the person of the investigator or officer, may be accompanied representative by the council and then provide with the board's regulations. The right to be the accompanied the representative advised by the council should be mean the right of the person testifying that they have the attorney present during any respect of the board initiated investigation have the attorney that advised clients before, during, and after conclusion of the such examination. And then Alright, 1122.12, certification false statement. When received the document turned over 1122.4 of the proceeding part of the maybe the statement of certifying that the person have the reasonable search for the reasonable document, producing all of the documents called for by the investigation officer subject for any search for the protocols agreed to by the investigating officer, producing the party for the response of the document is not produced with any of the reason for the producing party such that shall the state the reason thereof. If any response of the documents would help to become the claim of the attorney of the client privileged work product with the privilege of their applicable privilege producing party with the submit the list of the such of the document shall which shall each of the document identify the attorney involved with the client involved with the day of the document the person in shown with the document they have them prepared sent with the document and the person shown with the document have them the receiver of the copies of the document. Alright, 1122.13, right to submit the statement to any part of the board-initiated investigation may, at any time during the course of the board-initiated investigation, submit to the board written statement of facts or circumstances with the relevance of providing evidence concerning the subject of the investigation. And we don't read appendixes, but Appendix A, Part 1122, show the informal procedure relating to the recommendation of the summary of the findings of the board-initiated investigations. And 1122, 23 through 29 is reserved, and then parts 1130 through 149 will be rate procedures.